All right. Tulsi Gabbard, former Democrat congressman from Hawaii, a lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Army Reserve, a veteran of the Iraq War, a championship surfer, and a major advocate against the war machine, was interviewed on Fox yesterday. Let's take a look.
Tulsi Gabbard, former Hawaii Congresswoman, Fox News contributor. Tulsi, Donald Trump said you have to pay your own way. That is your obligation, 2.5% of your GDP to your military. Most nations still haven't gotten up to that level. But Trump's the pro-Putin sympathizer just for saying that?
Yeah, Laura, you've seen this tactic before when the Biden administration and Hillary Clinton and all these warmongers start fear-mongering. It's because they're trying to distract the American people away from what's actually happening. And when you look at what Trump is doing, he's talking about very real issues that the American people care about. He's talking about how our open borders, Biden's open borders, are destroying our country. He's talking about the rising inflation. He's talking about rampant crime in our streets. And now with NATO, he is forcing the American people and NATO members to be confronted with some very serious and important questions. For us, what is the role of NATO? Does our membership in NATO serve our national security interests? And if it does, then how much are we, the American people, willing to put on the line in our taxpayer dollars and in American lives? And how much are these NATO members willing to put on the line in their money and the lives of their citizens? We cannot allow ourselves, the United States of America and the American people, to continue to be in this position where these NATO members expect us to put up our money. They expect us to put up the lives of my brothers and sisters in uniform to protect them when they're not even willing to do that for themselves.
Well, I want to remind everyone what Donald Trump said about NATO, which caused such a huge controversy back in 2017. They never forgot this. Watch.
NATO members must finally contribute their fair share and meet their financial obligations. 23 of the 28 member nations are still not paying what they should be paying. This is not fair to the people and taxpayers of the United States. Over the last 8 years, the United States spent more on defense than all other NATO countries combined.
He uttered that which you're never supposed to utter, that everyone's supposed to pay their fair share. Now, there's been some improvement, Tulsi, on this, but clearly Europe still, even the New York Times had to concede, and quoting those officials in Munich, that they're still not anywhere near where they have to be if they think Lithuania, Estonia, Latvia, and Ukraine are going to be invaded by Vladimir Putin tomorrow.
That's right. You know, it's interesting that Biden and Hillary Clinton and these warmongers, they don't want this conversation to happen. And they don't want this very simple question to be asked is, why does it take Donald Trump to try to pressure these countries into paying the bare minimum to maintain their membership in NATO if they were really that concerned about Russia invading their countries and the safety, security, and well-being of their citizens? Don't you think that they would be lining up and making these investments in their own security, putting themselves on the line to defend themselves? This is a harsh reality that we need to be confronted with here in our own country, and these NATO members need to be confronted with as well.
What do you think the reaction would be, Tulsi, if Biden and Kamala Harris and Blinken, they went around to college campuses and they basically made the pitch for the U.S. to go to war for these, former Eastern European countries? And I mean, did they think I think that's going to work politically for them, that there's a groundswell of a desire for us to go really all in?
Yeah, and this is really the sad and sickening truth, is that people like Blinken and Hillary Clinton and others who are so willing to go and wage these wars in other countries, they are willing to sacrifice other people's lives. I've been to Ukraine a few times. I went there actually during my R&R, during my deployment to Iraq in 2005, made some great friends there in Ukraine who are terrified now that their husbands are going to be forcibly drafted to go and fight in this war. They are angered that the United States has stood in the way of attempts to bring about a peaceful resolution to this war. And once again, who is behind this and who is profiting from it? Ukrainian lives are being sacrificed, almost 500,000. And you have these people who are fueling the military-industrial complex saying, no, keep fighting this war, because they're not willing to put themselves or their children on the line.
Tulsi, great to see you.
Now, Tulsi Gabbard is a former Democrat, now an independent. She has been a major critic of the neocons and the uniparty war machine. Personally, I think she is among those who should be considered as a vice presidential candidate. President Richard Nixon once told me that in selecting a vice presidential running mate, that you shouldn't look for someone who helps you, just find someone who doesn't hurt you. That view may be a bit cynical. I think here the first and foremost requirement is that President Trump must select an individual who is fully qualified and has both the judgment and the experience, as well as the temperament, to fulfill the duties of the presidency if, God forbid, Donald Trump were unable to fulfill his term. Secondarily, then, you must have a running mate who shares your vision, who supports the president's agenda. The days of balancing the ticket, then perceived liberal Democrat John F. Kennedy choosing then perceived moderate conservative, in fact, segregationist Lyndon Johnson, is seen as the balancing of the ticket. Ronald Reagan, an outsider, a peace through strength, a conservative in the tradition of Goldwater, in the tradition of Eisenhower, selected George H.W. Bush, the father of the neocons. That would be considered ticket balancing. In this particular case, the Republican Party has changed. We are a largely right of center party. There are no more liberal Republicans. In fact, there are really no more moderate Republicans. There are establishment Republicans who give voice to the Trump agenda, who give voice to the America First agenda, but who undermine it at every turn. I don't know, Lindsey Graham comes to mind. It is essential, therefore, that Trump choose someone who is committed to his overall America First agenda. Then there are the political considerations. I think he needs to choose a candidate who will help him gain some new votes. First and foremost, he must choose someone acceptable to his base. I would argue that Tulsi Gabbard's record on these important war and peace issues, the fact that she's now supporting his views on NATO while he is under withering attack from the neocons for stating the obvious, that our NATO allies should pay their fair share, is a perfect demonstration of why she could be trusted as that candidate. I also think that she has a potential outreach to millennials. She has a potential outreach to Democrats. She was once actually vice chairman of the Democratic National Committee. Now, she herself has had a political odyssey. She was once a more liberal Democrat than she is today. Let me point out to you that Ronald Reagan was a liberal Democrat, the most liberal Democrat. There was an evolution in his political thinking. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't other good candidates under consideration. If the president has a short list, well, he hasn't shared it with me, at least not yet. I don't think he's shared it with anyone, but it is his prerogative to select a running mate using the criteria that we discussed. I do think you want somebody who is unexpected, someone who is sure-footed, someone who's not going to make mistakes. The advantages of a candidate like, say, Dr. Ben Carson or Tulsi Gabbard, for that matter, is that they have both run for president, and therefore they really understand how the system, and particularly the news cycle and the vipers in the fake news media, who are seeking, if you are the Republican nominee, to trip you up from day one, operate. And in that sense, Tulsi Gabbard, like Dr. Carson, would be sure-footed. On the other hand, you do need someone who helps you reach beyond your base without enraging or breaking your base. It's an extraordinarily difficult choice that Donald Trump must make. I trust him to make it. He's going to be the nominee. He is going to win the South Carolina primary with a commanding margin over the former governor, Nikki Haley. And well, if you're thinking about Nikki Haley for vice president, the answer is no. Actually, the answer is hell no. The days of balancing the ticket are over. And well, if Donald Trump chose Nikki Haley as his vice presidential running mate and they were to get elected, Donald Trump would need a food taster. All right. Thank you for joining us today on the Stone Zone. As a last minute housekeeping matter, please go by mypillow.com. And when you do, use promo code STONE. Now, the small commissions we earn at mypillow.com keep the lights on here at the Stone Zone. So whether it is pillows or blankets or towels or bedding or the terrific dog beds or the terrific pet blankets or any of the great products at mypillow.com, you can help that great American patriot, Mike Lindell, who's under siege from the same people who are attacking Donald Trump and me. You can also get some of the greatest products in the world with a money-back guarantee of 30 days. And you can support us right here at the Stone Zone. So please go to mypillow.com. And when you do, use promo code STONE. There it is, promo code STONE. Until tomorrow, thank you for joining us on the Stone Zone. I want to thank my co-host, Troy Smith. I also want to thank Cara Castronova, the newly minted candidate for the U.S. Senate in the state of New York. Until tomorrow, God bless you and Godspeed.
Roger Stone did nothing wrong. They wanna get me like I'm Roger Stone. They wanna get me like I'm Roger Stone. They wanna frame me like I'm Roger Stone. They wanna frame me like I'm Roger Stone.